So how exactly are you going to survive the coming market crash and all the troubles that we're about to face? Because you do realize that so far this year, as bad as 2020 has been, it's been a dry run. I mean, it's been a test. It's been a forewarning. It's been a shot off of the bow. Because think about it for just a minute. There's 40 million people out of jobs, and there's some really crazy numbers that I want to share with you in just a moment that I heard from a good friend that's going to totally blow your mind. So the real crisis, the real challenges are coming for businesses and for you and for me. So how exactly are we going to handle that? I remember an old copywriting promotion, and it said, what to do when it's something like when blood runs in the street or something. It was a big crisis thing. Well, I'm not a doomsday kind of a guy, but I do know that we are in for some pretty challenging times. So what do you do in challenging times? And my guess is that you've been through challenging times before. If you're anything like me, then you were around trying to do business or had a job during 2008. And you saw major crisis. If you were around in 2000 when the dot-com bubble burst, then you've seen panic in the streets and you've seen crisis and you've seen troubles. I remember in 1990, I had to think 1992, 93, there were massive riots and burnings and lootings and all kinds of problems down in Los Angeles and other major cities. So history tends to repeat itself. So what exactly you're going to do? And my guess is that if you've seen challenges like that, A, you survived it, but B, did you really thrive? Did you come through it with the security and the wealth and the position that you really wanted to? And if not, why not? And if you're not where you want to be today, then what needs to happen in order for you to create a position, to create an environment where you can be better off because of this crisis, where you can have growth, where you can have better results, where you can have more security, where you can, you can excel despite the challenges, or maybe because of the challenges. You've heard me say before, but I love studying eagles. Eagles, when big storms come and other animals hunker down, eagles go into the middle of the storm and they use the air currents and the storm and the power of the storm to rise up even higher. And so that's what I want for you. That's what I want for me. So how exactly are we going to do it? Well, in the next couple of minutes, what I want to do is I want to share with you one very simple thing that I did in 2008. When the Lehman Brothers went out of business, when the markets crashed, when the real estate went down, when businesses were panicking, when all the things, I want to share with you one very powerful, very simple thing that I did in 2008 that really transformed my business, transformed my life, transformed who I am today, what I do today, 12 years later. And I think that this one thing will help you as well as we come up to this massive, incredible crisis. So if you're just joining me or you're just watching this, brief introduction. My name is Joshua Boswell. I'm the founder of Copywriter Marketer. I help writers transform their writing skill into an amazing income. I've had the privilege of working with well over 10,000 writers over the last almost 2 decades. I've also had the great joy of working with some of the largest companies in the world: Corel, Google, Sony, General Motors, Verizon, Blue Cross Blue Shield. The list goes on and on. And I have great opportunity to consult with them, to do marketing campaigns with them, to write for them, and to do what I love doing, and that's helping them grow. And that's why I'm here today, is to help you grow. So as we face this critical time, let me share with you some insights on why I think that so far what we face is just a dry run and why it's going to get better. I've got a good friend of mine who is in the repo market, a real estate repo, and I had a conversation with them today. And they said that the numbers came out, was released so if you're in the know inside the real estate industry and in the mortgage industry, then you know that in May, about 31%, I think I got these numbers about right, about 31% of all mortgages in the United States of America went unpaid. Well, there is a crisis going on and people are struggling financially, but also Congress, of course, said, hey, there's a freeze on being able to repossess. So if you don't pay your rent, if you don't pay your mortgage, then nobody can do anything about it. Okay, well, great. So in May, 31%. In June, 43%. And right now, today, as of this recording, they're waiting to see the numbers of what happened in July. But you got to think, half the people in America not paying their mortgages, more than half not paying their rent. That's going to be a challenge. people out of work. That's going to be a challenge. Now, again, I'm not trying to put fear into your heart. I'm just telling you that there are some crazy, wild, hard things coming, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. So what do you do, especially as a writer, as a copywriter or marketer? How do you handle the crisis and turn it to your good? How do you benefit from this? Well, a couple, a lot of ideas come to my mind, but there's one very specific thing that I did in 2008 and that I have been consulting and counseling with my upper end students, and now I'm telling you that I think that you should do it. So what needs to happen there in order to survive? So here's the one thing that needs to happen. In 2008, I was 3 years, about 3-4 years into my writing career. And I was doing okay. I was making about 6 figures, I don't know, 100, 150,000 a year, cruising along 200,000. And what I did is I started noticing that all these companies were going down. And when 2008 happened, I remember where I was when Lehman Brothers were announced that they went bankrupt. And I had a financial advisor tell me, he says, keep your eye on Lehman Brothers. When they go down, the rest of the market's all going down. Like he foretold this and predicted this. And so when I saw that news, I went into panic mode. I was like, what's going to happen now? Like, my business is going to collapse. All my clients are going to collapse. Everyone's going to be, thing. And sure enough, I started watching as the market started retracting, and all the people who had money, a lot of the companies that had marketing budgets started pulling that money back in, and they started retracting all their budgets. They started laying people off. Does this sound familiar to anybody, right? And so all this stuff was happening, and I thought, okay, well, what I've got to do is I've got to hustle some more. That's what I'm going to do. So I went out there and I hustled really hard, and I made a bunch of phone calls, and I marketed myself more, and nothing happened. A lot of people say, hey, we don't have the budget for this, we don't have this for that. But, there's so many things that I kept pushing my services, kept talking about more people, and I was working really hard to make this happen. And nothing happened. And I was getting really, and I was starting to panic because my business was going down and I was struggling with cash flow, and I wanted to make this work. And so it was about this time that I had a really interesting conversation with one of my mentors, the same financial planner, a guy named R.C. Peck that I'm telling you about. And R.C. and I had this really interesting conversation about perceived value and wealth. We talked about a bunch of different things, but we talked about perceived value and wealth. And it's really important to know that instead of going out there and hustling more, what I did is I flipped one specific switch, one switch. And what was that switch? That switch was I changed the value proposition of my business, of who I was. Now, I'd already been employing different strategies in terms of being a copywriter, marketer, as opposed to just being a marketer, but I amped that game up substantially. So in other words, what I did is I looked at, I did 3 basic things, right? And I'll tell you about those 3 things in just a minute, but I went and I applied this new strategy of amping my value proposition. So I increased my value proposition, and then I went back out and started building out my business again. And almost immediately, I started picking up clients, and then I got more clients, and I started charging more, and I got more clients, I started charging more. And really within 6 months, I was able to double my business and substantially increase my lifestyle and all the things that I wanted. And I found that there were 2 different categories of companies, and this was really interesting. I want you to jot this down. If you've got something to take a note with, this is important. So there's 2 different things that happen there. Number one, some companies retracted. Okay, so they scaled back, they pulled in, they responded to fear. They thought, the way to ride this out is to save, to penny pinch, to retract. And then there was a second kind of company, and what they did is they expanded. They said, the way to move through this is to move forward more aggressively. Like I've done a lot of surfing and scuba diving and a lot of swimming and stuff. And if you're out in the ocean, you're swimming, and a wave is coming towards you, and if you're out on your board or you're just free swimming, and a wave is coming toward you, the thing to do is not to sort of float and wait for it to pass over you. That's really, really painful. The wave hits you, it smashes you down you go. The thing to do is to push forward, swim as fast and as hard as you can, right into the crest or right into the heart of the wave, And that's the way you get through it. And then it's like a cool thing. You feel the energy of the wave pass over you, and you can move forward. And you'll get smashed and all beat up and rolled through the surf and all those kind of crazy things. And so I realized that there were those companies who were just bobbing along, letting the wave crash upon them and trying to survive that. And then there were those that were swimming, that they were moving forward really aggressively. They were increasing their marketing budget. Now, the percentage of companies in the marketplace that were doing that were very small compared to the ones that were bobbing along or just getting out of the water altogether and going out of business. So I realized I have to find these people. But how do you find these people? Well, you don't find them, you let them find you. How do you let them find you? You have to change your value proposition, because a company is not just going to raise their rates, raise their marketing budget, and then take like the lowest bidder or the cheapest guy on the block. They're looking for serious, aggressive professionals who are going to really have a major impact on their business. People who can be copywriters, who can be marketing consultants, people who can help change the equation for them, because if they're going to put extra money in, they want to get extra money out. They want to ride the energy. They want to increase their business. They want to have security. They want to have all those kinds of things just like you do. So I realized I had to increase my value proposition. So I tried it and had incredible, astonishing results. And I remember at that time, I was doing a thing for a company called AWAI called the Monday Morning Jumpstart. Monday Morning Jumpstart. It was a cool program. Every Monday, I would release a short little video that just gives some insights and tips. And I talked a little bit about this and some of the things that I was doing. And it's interesting to look back at that time period. Like I just barely got an email from a gal whose dream at that time was to be a sports writer and to write for some of the major networks and some of the individual major players, NFL players and basketball players and big name sports people. And I got an email from her a little while back, and she was like, "Hey, I just wanted to tell you, like the program you put together and Monday Morning Jumpstart and the idea that you gave about being more aggressive and moving forward, that's what completely changed my life." And I've gotten dozens and dozens and dozens of testimonials like that about how in that period, when everyone else was going out of business, that was the springboard. That was the launch pad for their business. Now, I want you to have that same thing. When we're talking here in a year or two or three, I want to hear your story about how this changed your life, just like it has for dozens and dozens of other of my students from years and years and years ago. I want you to have you see the same kind of results and the same thing. So how exactly do that? How do you change the value proposition? How do you make that shift so that people see you as a professional, as an expert, want to pay you more, even as the companies that are going out of business go out of business, that money transfers to those who are sticking around? How do you scoop up that extra money? Well, 3 specific ways to do this. So number 1, the very first one is you've got to mine your past gold. What do I mean by that? Here's a very simple example. Let's see, let me think here. In 1989, I was a young kid in high school, and I was looking for a job. And so I went and got a job as a lifeguard. I was a good swimmer. I like to swim, so I went and got a job as a lifeguard, and I lifeguarded my way through high school. Now, fast forward to 2005, here I am, I'm sitting at my desk one day, and I'm frantically working on my website and an information packet and trying to put some kind of a portfolio together. I'd never been a copywriter. I didn't have any experience. I didn't have a lot of background. I'd never had a real job. There's like so many things that I didn't have. I didn't have a college degree. There were so many things I didn't have, and I was sitting there thinking like, well, what can I bring to the table? Like, what do they really want that I can bring a value to the table? And then I thought, oh, well, you've been a lifeguard. Now, you might think a lifeguard has nothing to do. Possible that's the stupidest idea ever. Like, a lifeguard has nothing to do with being a successful writer. And then I started thinking, I thought, well, actually it kind of does, because what do people really want as a writer? They want someone who's dependable. They want someone who can work with the public. They want someone who can relate to lots of different people. They want someone who can be trusted and is responsible. And they want someone who can be proactive and get the job done. And I thought, you know what? as a lifeguard, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, I was doing all that stuff. Now, if you're just joining me right now, because I see a couple of people just popping in, if you're just joining me right now, like you got to go back and hear the rest of the stuff, because I covered what happens when markets crash, and I covered the idea about how when things go down and really get hard, two kinds of companies: the kind of company that retracts and lays people off, and the kind of company that grows and presses forward. And the kind of company that presses forward increases their criteria for who to hire as a writer and as a marketing consultant. But then they pay really well for that. And so you do that, you get in that realm of attracting those kinds of people by changing your value proposition. So I'm explaining point number one of how to change that value proposition. So here is number one: mine, M-I-N-E, your past gold. So I'm giving the example of being a lifeguard. So I thought, being a lifeguard as a lifeguard, I had to show up on time. I was responsible for people's lives. I interfaced with the public. I had to deal with complicated situations. It was this huge water park where I was a head water lifeguard, deep water lifeguard, and I was the head guard there as a 17-year-old. And so, I learned all those skills. So I wrote some stories about my experience as a lifeguard, and then I related it back to how those were the kinds of characteristics and skills that people were looking for when they were looking for a good, effective writer. And then I sent that out, and sure enough, it worked. Like, people were impressed, and they would talk to me about my experience as a writer and what I had done and what I hadn't done and all those kinds of things. And so it worked. So hopefully you have a better background than just being a lifeguard. So maybe you've got job experience, maybe you've got a volunteer experience, maybe you've got marketing experience, maybe you've got sales experience of some kind, maybe you've got other kinds of business stuff in terms of maybe network marketing, or maybe you've got other writing experience, maybe you've been a journalist or did something in the past. And what I want you to do is, number one is, I want you to recognize that you have paid the price to develop skills, characteristics, perspectives, insights, and you have a unique set of value that you can bring to the table. But what I see most of my students do when they walk into the world of copywriting, what do? What they do is they go, oh, well, now I'm a copywriter and I have to start all over. You don't have to start all over. Don't start all over. Mind the stuff that you've already done. Think deeply about who you are, the skills you bring to the table, the insights, the perspectives, the characteristics. I remember I talked to one of my students one time, and she said, well, I've just been a waitress for the past 20 years. I'm like, oh, just a waitress? This is amazing. Like, tell me all the skills you've developed. Like, how do you read people and interface with the public and relate to people and can upsell and cross-sell them? I mean, servers, really good servers at high-end restaurants, they've got to be like, do you want dessert? Do you want a drink with that? Do you want things like that? They're constantly upselling and cross-selling people, and they've got all these sales skills and people skills, and I mean, just showmanship, all these amazing things that come with that kind of experience. And I said, you have to write some stories about that and talk about that. And sure enough, she did, and she got projects and jobs. So mine your past experience. That's number one in changing the value perspective, the value proposition that you bring to the table. Number two, the second thing that you need to do is research for problems. Research for problems. You see, most writers that I know, they have a problem. The problem is that they, and actually I researched this problem. That's why Copywriter Marketer exists today. So what I did is I looked around like, well, how do most, what's the number one problem that copywriters have? They don't get clients. They want to get clients. They want to make money. Well, why are they not doing it? What's the issue there why they're not getting the clients that they want to get? And I realized that one of the things is strategically what they're doing is they're getting all these writing skills out of context of the problems in the market that they want to serve, right? So they're learning about white paper or persuasion or about emails or about whatever it is, but it's not connected to the issues and the problems that their potential future clients have. And so they think that if they just get the skills, then everybody has problems that need to be solved by these skills, and so they'll be fine. And you need to face this issue the exact opposite way. You need to go out there and you need to discover in your niche, in your market, what exactly are the problems that your companies and clients are facing. Right now, today, there are new problems and new marketing issues and new copywriting issues and new, new conversation issues and content issues. Number one, technology has radically changed in the last couple of years. Number two, the economy is crazy. The pandemic has just exploded everything and just changed everything. Number three, the politics today have radically changed stuff and have made people vulnerable to all kinds of different things. So the economy, the politics, and the technology have changed everything for us. And so companies are facing new problems, new dilemmas, new crises, new issues, and a lot of the old solutions just aren't working anymore. So you got to go out and research what the problems are. What are the crises? What are the issues that are going on? You got to research that out and then formulate solutions, right? Then formulate the solution. And that's exactly what I did in 2018. I went and found out, like, okay, it's a new ball game. The market's crashed. People are panicking. What issues are they facing right now? And how can I solve those with my writing, with my marketing consulting? And so I changed up my solutions. Then I added some things to my bag of tricks. If you've heard me talk about that phrase before, these marketing tips and tricks that I use to help people out. By the way, if you haven't seen, I've got a full 90-minute webinar on this, plus a new program about it. If you haven't seen that, then it's fabulous resource. Even if you just watch if you haven't seen it, if you just watch the free webinar on this, I go into depth about 3 specific things that you can do right now to really change up your value proposition to make more money, including some of the stuff I'm talking about here, but I go much further in depth because I got more time. So you can see that at www.the10x, the letter X, the10xwriter.com. The10xwriter.com. You can go check that out. It's totally free. You can go check it out. Okay, so you need to research the problem, then create what I call a bag of tricks, solutions that are custom tailored for the issues that you're facing. Hey, Steven, what's up, dude? Hi, buddy. I just see you on there. Okay, so you need to tailor that right there. So number 3. So that's the second issue that you need to do. Let me give you a quick example of this. A few years after this 2008 stuff happened, I had gotten in the habit of doing this, where I was creating these bag of tricks and these solutions. I was finding problems and creating solutions. And there was a company called Vinehouse that operates out of London in the UK, and I was researching them as part of this research effort that I was doing in terms of finding clients and stepping into a new market. And Vinehouse at the time focused on employee analysis, management training, CEO training, all those kinds of things. But their market was 100% inside of the UK, inside of Great Britain. And so while they were English speaking, I started researching all the stuff that they were doing, and I realized all their pamphlets, all their emails, all their brochures, all their website, everything was in British English. And a number of the things that they were talking about were complete jargon sets that were way outside the comfort realm of most Americans, right? Like, you realize that we don't speak the same English as they speak over there across the pond, right? So completely outside the set. And so I realized, okay, in order for them to effectively market inside the United States, which I saw that they were doing, in order for them to effectively market inside the United States, they need to Americanize all of their content, all of their copy. And so I approached them about helping out with that and restructuring and rebranding and re-jargonizing and Americanizing all this stuff. And so I found a problem and I presented a specific solution for that. Now think how different this is than going out there and saying, oh, hey, by the way, I'm really good at emails. Do you need any emails written, right? It's like you've got a solution and you're looking for a problem. Go find the problem and give them a solution. It completely changes the equation and the value proposition you bring to the table. Number 3, the third thing that you can do is you can bend their perceived value of you. Look, value is all in perception. It's all in perception. And so it depends, like one man's junk is another man's treasure, right? They have that expression. So it depends on how you perceive the value. Right? Like we do lots of different things, but like if my son or daughter if my little child came to you you would say, oh, they're important because they're a child. And if they were out on a ledge and about to fall, you may or may not risk your life to go out and to save them. But what about me? Would I go out and risk my life to save them? Yeah, I wouldn't even think twice about it. Why? Because the perceived value is totally and completely different. And what you want to do is you want to be perceived as that valuable in the market. So you have to bend the perception of how they see you. And it's all in the positioning and in the packaging of how you present yourself. The number one way to do this, to bend perceived value, is to write and publish every day. Write and publish every single day. And when you write and publish every single day, and specifically when you tell stories, then it changes the perceived value that you bring to the table. You're able to present your skills and your services and solutions and your packaged ideas and the resources that you've got. You're able to change up the whole entire equation with how you present yourself in that daily writing and in that daily content development. Now, what kinds of content should you write? Well, the most important thing you should write are stories, okay? Stories. And the stories need to be structured so that you look at, what's the problem? What are things that have been tried before? What's the new solution that you came up with? What are the results of that solution? And then what's a call to action? Like, how can you implement that and connect the dots? And if you'll use those 5 simple criteria for writing your stories, then what it'll do is over time, as people read those stories, your target audience, they will see you as someone who has enormous value to them because they'll feel persuaded and inspired. You'll be able to tell and teach and talk about the key things that you bring to the table, your ideas and your resources and all those kinds of things. You can do that all within the scope of the stories that you tell. Now, if you've never seen my perfect article structure, then you can go check it out. You can go look on Copywriter Marketer and you can find the perfect article. And I walk through the structure of how to do that. And of course, in that new program called the 10X Writer, and you can go see that, the 10xwriter.com, you can go check it out. Inside of that program, I talk in depth about how you create those stories and how you structure that. So again, I just want to point out that the world is massively changing. I mean, like majorly changing. And in order to position yourself as someone who rides the energy and is strengthened by all these massive changes that are going on, in order to do that, you have to change your value proposition. And in order to change your value proposition, you got to do 3 things. There's more than 3, but there's 3 specific things you can do. Number 1 is look at your past experience. You have a unique set of gifts, talents, insights, and perspectives that nobody else in the world has. It's time to look at those and how those can help solve challenges in your marketplace. Number 2, go out there and find the problems. Find the issues that the companies are dealing with right now. And number 3, bend their perceived value by telling stories and publishing every single day. Cool? All right, so again, if you want some more insight, if all that sounds interesting, you're like, okay, well, how do I do that? What can I do? A great place to start with a ton more information than what I've shared with you today is at www.the10xwriter.com, the10xwriter.com, and you go check out those resources if you haven't seen it already. And then, of course, liking, if you and your buddies and everyone that you know that's a writer is not following me right now on LinkedIn or on YouTube, then it's time to repent and get on it. I would love to have you participate with me and follow me there. And then, of course, signing up for any one of my different programs would be awesome. So you guys, it was great sharing with you some time tonight. If you just joined on, I'm wrapping up right now, but you can go back and listen to it. I'll post this as a replay, and hopefully it'll be seriously helpful for you. Because again, as I shared, the world's massively changing, and what we've experienced so far is a dry run. I'm telling you, I'm not being a doom and gloom guy, but I'm telling you it's a dry run. It's going to get a lot worse. So how do you survive and thrive in the crisis? Follow some of the insights that I've given you here. Check out the 10X Writer and the 10xwriter.com, and I think they'll be really, really valuable for you. I want you guys to thrive and survive in this crazy time. So great having you on tonight. Robert, you're very welcome. Good to see you tonight. I'm signing off. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye now.